Hi, everyone. My name is Megan, and I am an occupational therapy student at KU Medical Center. And today I am here with Cleopatra, who will be telling us about her experience as a caregiver to her mother. And she is currently living in Florida, and she has a history of being a caregiver with her mother-in-law, sharing that role with her husband. So she's had a lot of experience and has a lot to share. So, the first question, Cleopatra, I would like you to talk about is just maybe some of the challenges you faced being a caregiver for your mom and ways that you found to overcome it.
Like the first thing was I was a military officer, so I would read a lot on it. I read about 20 books on it and everything. And then of course I got data or information overload. And I made like a list of things that I was going to do because I was going to do it right with my mom. The biggest challenge was accepting, not being in denial, because I kept on thinking, I want to solve this. I'm going to find that little thing. I'm going to find the cure, basically. But when I realized, like a year and a half later, that that wasn't going to happen, I made a list of things trying to identify at exactly what stage of dementia, which then they gave her a PET scan and they said it's definitely Alzheimer's. So I read up on Alzheimer's and all the steps. I think the biggest challenge was with my mother-in-law, even though I was there taking care of her kind of on the back seat. And my husband had a much different relationship with his mom. She was Italian, so they were very loud. My mom was also very well, she says educated, but in the Latin culture, educated means you have real good manners. And you'd never, my husband thinks we're hypocritical because you're never going to say what you're feeling. So my mom was very well mannered and everything. And I think the biggest challenge was when she has lost most of her filters. And I have to constantly have to remind myself that this is the disease. It's not her lashing out at me. One of the things that I was involved with, the Kansas City Alzheimer's caregiver group, what I found very helpful was that they have a bunch of keywords, like how to deal with somebody lashing out, how to deal with how to get dressed. And that's the other thing. My mom used to get dressed very well all the time. And now I find out that, that she dresses stripes with checkers. and, so I have found one of the videos that I saw was that you kind of declutter or, take out a bunch of the clothes from the closet. I put in like in outfits and, so that you can just grab it in that. I also found out recently that we used to walk like 2 miles a day, but since she had a craniotomy, she fell about 8 months ago. She kind of loses her balance in that. So my mom always wanted to wear heels. So I've had to get rid of like her 80 plus heel shoes, and she just has a fit. And the one thing that I have found out that is very alien to me was fibbing. But with the Alzheimer's side, they also have like, it's okay to fib. And I just feel like I'm going to hell. I'm lying to my mom because, I would tell her like, remember you gave away those shoes. Remember those heel shoes fell apart. So I guess kind of that part of fitting is okay because it's for their safety. The other thing, I mean, when she started with Alzheimer's, she weighed like 105. She's a very petite woman. Now she was like 125. And she's like, my clothes aren't fitting. You're doing something. I realized that one of the articles I read was that it's okay if they gain weight because later on they won't want to eat, So I think the biggest thing is trying to read as much as you can, but not get information overload. Trying to get help. It's really hard for me to ask for help. I know at the beginning, my brothers and sisters, I have 8 brothers and sisters, and they said, well, you're a military officer, you're in the line of fire, you should be able to handle this. I don't know how that correlates, but I have told them that sometimes when she's having kind of like I think it's called the sundowners effect. I've noticed that after she had a craniotomy, around 4:30, she gets fidgety. And in Ecuador, where I grew up, around 4:30, you have café con leche and a pastry or something. And she hasn't done that for years. So now she's like, it's 4:30. Where's my café con leche? So it's like drop everything or, just give her that because or else she gets antsy. But sometimes she just won't stop. And I just send an SOS. And it's always to my brothers. I have 5 brothers. She doesn't want to hear from the girls. She just wants to hear back from her sons. So I'll send an SOS to my brothers, it's your turn to call mom. And that quiets her down. She loves to dance. All Latin people love to dance. So many times I've gotten a collection of some of the music of her era. And I'll put on a mambo, a salsa or whatever. And that gets her out of, being antsy or upset. I tried doing, like, she used to love to cook. I think that's the hardest thing for me because I love to cook. And my husband is Lebanese Italian, so I cook a lot of Italian and Middle Eastern food. And she's just like, I can't believe this is happening to me. I have to eat this food. So I always have to have some rice or something on the side when she doesn't want to eat that. And I have found that, she always wants to help. So I find little tasks like chopping up the onions. And I've come to realize she's not going to chop them the way I want or anything. I read something that, about a month ago, it said, your loved one is not going to change, so you have to change. So that's the other thing I've done lately is change to how she wants to chop the things or something. So it's the clothes, putting them in outfits, spacing out so that there's not too much choices. A video that I thought university, there's a program in, I forgot the name, but it's out of New Zealand, because I guess in Australia, a lot of the young people have left. So they have a lot of very high percentage of people with Alzheimer's. So they have these fantastic courses where they take you through, the steps, and they have videos. And one of the things that helped me a lot is in one of the videos, they said that pretend like tape your 2 fingers and 2 fingers on the other hand, put some goggles on and put like Vaseline on it, and then put some earphones and put chatter on it. And so the lady would tell the students, okay, go into the room, we're going to the beach, and go and get dressed. And the person would go into the room like a regular person without Alzheimer's, and you'd open the drawer and there'd be nothing like dishes or something. And she goes, that's a lot of times kind of the world they're in, the confusion. I think that was really, really helpful for me trying to understand. And so just, I think that's the great thing is I have a schedule, like a wipeout board on, and I'll say, okay, we had breakfast. Now we can give her choices. We can go for a walk or we can play a game or something. Sometimes she'll just say, I just want to take a nap because I didn't sleep all night.
I just kind of wanted to recap a few of those points that you said, because I think you had a lot of good points and tips for other people in that, such as separating the person from the disease. And I know that's very difficult, but you kind of said like sometimes, the filters might go away, but knowing that, that might be the disease talking over, the person, because her heart very well. So kind of maybe taking that piece out of it and maybe looking at the person versus the disease, changing the person. And I think that's can be important, especially for someone who might be struggling to kind of see their loved one change. You also talked about like the fibbing and how that can be beneficial for their safety. And I completely agree. I think the part that might be kind of hard for care partners is knowing that you want to keep them safe, but you want to be honest. But at times, doing things like that, like maybe telling like the little white lie, like some people would say, can also be beneficial for their safety. If she wants to wear heels, but maybe that's she's not safe when she walks in heels. That's definitely your call, and it's the right call, because I feel like what's best for her safety, because your loved one the best. And then two more things you talked about support, and a piece of advice would be find that support system as much as you can. And you said asking for help, it can be hard, but if you're not taking care of yourself, I think it's important to know that you can't take care of someone else unless you also care for yourself. And I'm sure that can be a difficult thing to think about too. And then adapting, you said, the person isn't going to change, so you kind of have to change your ways a little bit, and you're adapting to a changing situation. And I think that's something that care partners always face, would be having to adapt to different situations. And you might adapt to one way one day, and then the next day you might have to do something completely different. So I think finding that balance, but I think you made a lot of great points in that, and I think it's definitely helpful. um, I was just wondering if maybe you could also touch on how your role has kind of shifted from maybe daughter to caregiver, and how you kind of find that balance.
I think it's weird because I just took my mom again to the doctor, and every time I go to the doctor, she's like, "I'm fine," but my daughter is starting to forget, or she'll tell the things that I'm doing when actually she's doing. But I was surprised when the doctor told her, because he said maybe you can find like a senior center, and I have found several senior centers, but she says there's nothing but old people there. She's going to be 90 next month. I mean, so the doctor was telling me, did you take her, find some place where you can take her? I said, well, I did. I took her there. And then she said, there's nothing but old people there. And he says, well, hello, you're going to be 90 years old. You're old. And she said, I'm having a very hard time accepting that. And it's true. But it was like a moment of clarity, and that's the thing. Like if I'm going somewhere, like we rarely go out, because when I come back, she'll be like, I hope you had a good time with your husband. I was here. And his mom used to say, I could have died while you were gone. So my mom doesn't say that yet. So I have to let go some of that guilt, because my husband now is like 18 years, not 6 years. So I do have to get that over. But yes, she does. She has a real hard time accepting that she's 90. And when she sees me going out, she kind of gets upset. Are those my clothes? No. I got them. Because I used to have that when I used to go out. I go, okay, well, you can have them, you can wear them if you want, but we're just going out for a little while. But my daughter has been real helpful with her. And I realized also that she acts different with different people. She comes from a male-oriented society. So my husband can tell her to jump off a cliff and she'll do it. I have to beg her, cajole her. But when I'm having a real hard time with her sometimes, he'll say, Francis, why don't we do this? And she goes, sure, sure, I'll do that. So, and then with my youngest daughter, she acts very different. Like she won't play cards with me, but my youngest daughter does something that she does with her. And so I have 4 daughters. She does different things with each one of the daughters. So that's kind of neat, but she lashes out more with me. But somebody told me it's like when kids are small, they lash out to their mom maybe, but then they go to school and they're like perfect little angels. But yeah, so it's at the beginning, I had a hard time saying, Mom, why don't you do this? So I have to watch the way I say it, because in one of the videos, they were also saying, kind of like let them choose, hey, do you want an apple or an orange, as opposed to saying, we're having apples right now. So I think she feels like she has a little more control of her life like that. Or, we can go for a walk or we can do exercise. Because I think just when my girls were small, somebody told me that if you make them choose, peas or carrots, and they choose and they'll eat it. But if you tell them we're eating carrots, aren't it? And they're like, we're not going to eat it. So I think it is, it's got to be hard losing part of that control.
Yeah, I think you highlight a great point and kind of provide maybe some insight that you've learned from being a caregiver, that losing control is hard for anyone. And kind of being told what to do isn't the most fun thing. And it seems like you have a very close relationship with your mom, and you might be that easy target to lash out on. But I feel like you've kind of developed ways to hopefully, again, separate like her from the disease, and her heart the best again. Um, but that balance is definitely something very important.
One of the things, sometimes at night you go back to the Latin culture, you hugging your kids, American might just say, "Good night, mom." But my mom always, she's come back, And the other thing she expects of me now is when we were small and we were going to leave somewhere, we had to ask for a blessing. So now it's like, if I'm going to walk out, I have to. And my youngest daughter and my other daughters are like, "Why are you doing that?" It's just something that she's used to, and it gives her, I don't know, a sense, I'm still her daughter. Um, so you're right, it's a reversal of roles. But I have to, when I tell her what I want her to do, I have to more pose it like a question. So she feels she has a. And the other thing I'm doing is she hates the fact she always wore small clothes. So now she's like in medium or medium large. So whenever I buy her something, I take the tags off of the medium. I take the small from the other clothes because else she won't wear them. She's like, "What, medium? I'm not wearing this. I wear small." And my daughters and my husband thinks that's crazy, but then she will wear the clothes I buy her, or else she just won't wear them. She's like, "I'm not wearing medium. I'm a small."
I feel like you have a lot of great strategies that you use, and you're very creative with them. I think that you do so much for her, and I can tell she's very lucky to have you. You're very dedicated, and I know that doesn't come easy, but I know that I'm sure she very much appreciates that, and I think you're doing an incredible job.
Well, I also did several albums, like of the families, because she can't remember. She's got 29 grandkids. She's got 21 great grandkids. So I put like families together in albums. So it'll be like, we're gonna see Marie and her kids today, and she'll look through that. That has helped a lot because she's starting to forget the names.
But I really do like that you have like that positive perspective on it. As hard as it might be, like you talked about, like highlighting those times where she just says how much she loves you and appreciates you, and just different things like that. I think highlighting those really high points, I think that's maybe a good strategy to kind of think of and focus on the now and like what you can do
Yeah.
now. Just to wrap things up, I was just wondering if you'd like to share any one short piece of advice you would have for another caregiver who might be struggling during some hard times. What would that piece of advice be?
Well, I was shocked when my mom was diagnosed and I was reading all this stuff and everything. I was always been very healthy. Um, One day I felt like I was having a heart attack. It was like 6 months into my month, and my husband had to take me to the hospital because I thought I was having a heart attack. I found out my blood pressure was like 188 over like 99, and the doctor's like, "This is really bad." But taking care of yourself. And then because I read another piece of a thing saying that many caregivers die before their loved ones, I'm like, "Oh God." So I have had to find time for myself, even sometimes it's 5 minutes. I'm a scientist and my husband thinks I'm a weirdo, but I have a walk-in closet with all my chemistry and technical books. And I have little stars in this. And I just go in there sometimes and solve some problems, do some push-ups, but taking care of myself because my husband was almost in tears. He's like, "You can't do this. You got to take care of yourself." So I think that's the prime thing, and finding something that lights up your life. Physics, the problems do that for me, so that's what I do.
Well, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you kind of learned that along the way, and I hope that that's a nice, fun little escape for you. And I think that's so important to find that time for yourself. Well, Cleopatra, thank you so much for doing this. I think you shared a lot of incredible insight from your experiences, which you seem like you have a lot of. But I think that they're great words of advice, and you have a lot of great lessons to share for other people. So thank you so much for doing this.
Okay. And sometimes we just dance when she just fed up with life. And she claims that she learned to dance the tango when she was 3. So I don't know, but she's doing the tango right now.
Hey, there you go. Look for those bright spots in the day. I love it.
Well, thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity.